Hey everybody, John here at ATX Hot Sauce. Today, one of my favorite recipes we're going to be making. It's called the Big Tom. The Big Tom is tomatillos, jalapenos, onions, and garlic and cilantro. One of my absolute favorites. You can make this sauce without fermenting, but I believe that having the fermentation process for about a month on these is really going to make it something special. Now, one of the things I like to talk about is my book, right? One of our tips and tricks. Always keep a book on your brines because you can't remember, especially if you're making a lot of brines, you're not going to remember what's in everything. So this is batch 41 and 42. Going to go on here, and batch 41 has tomatillos, cilantro, garlic, and onion. And then 42 has jalapenos, tomatillos, cilantro, and sliced onion also. So we're going to combine both of these today to make the Big Tom. Let's get started. All right, let's get to making the Big Tom. As I said, one of my absolute favorites. I'm going to combine both of these together, and we're going to put them in the blender here in a few minutes. But one of the things we want to do first is separate the brine from the vegetables themselves. Oh my God, that smells absolutely amazing. And we're going to dump all this right here. Oh wow, that's all that cilantro on the bottom there. A little bit of yeast on the bottom, dead bacteria, that's all good there. Look at those tomatillos. Those are one of my favorite fruits out there, I gotta tell you. All right, then we're gonna take this one. This one actually has the jalapenos in it. Oh, whew, that is good. Now this isn't a very spicy sauce at all. If you notice, both jars had tomatillos and onions and things like that in there, but they didn't have jalapenos. I just put the jalapenos in one jar. This tends to be, of all of our sauces, the bottom end of the spiciness. It's very mild. All right, let's get this going in here. Now we're combining both of these brines because they're pretty much the same. Look at those jalapenos. Probably needed a bigger strainer for this, but that's okay. All right. Wow, check that out. That's a lot of cilantro. I like cilantro though. We got the onions, got garlic in there. You got the tomatillos, jalapenos. God, looks really good. Well, the thing I like to do right off the bat is check the pH on the brine itself. Now, typically, I've seen these on the tomatillos. They're not going to be as acidic as I really like. This is probably going to be in the high 4s, maybe even 5 on this meter. So let's check it out. Actually, no. We've got 3.6 on this one, 3.5. That's pretty acidic. So, you know what this tells me is that when I do add some vinegar, I'll probably do some white wine vinegar or just some white vinegar, that I won't need to add too much because it's already real acidic at 3.6. That's fantastic, by the way. All right, now we have our veggies. We have our brine put aside. Wow, that smells good. Now we're going to do next, we're going to blend. So what we're going to do first, and we got to be careful because this is still on the strainer, still straining out just a little bit. We're going to take all of our veggies and put them in this blender. Typically, when I'm doing the Big Tom, I have a 2-step method typically with sauces, especially hot sauces. Well, I'll use this, plus I'll use this bullet that really crushes up the seeds. I find in the Big Tom, people like it a little bit more thick, right? And show some of the seeds in there. So we're going to just probably do it in this one blender, see how it looks, see how it turns out. I'll tell you, every time you do one of these, every batch can be a little bit different, right? Depending on time of the year, how sweet the onions are, how spicy the peppers are, how good the cilantro is, how fresh it was, where did it come from? You know, I've been to supermarkets where you pull up a bunch of cilantro, you can have this incredible smell coming off it, right? You go pull another one, you don't smell anything at all. So, you know, vegetables are like people, right? They all come in different sizes, shapes, and smells. So that's why it's always good to pick your own produce when you're going to the grocery store. All right, we got all that in there. Now we're going to need a little bit of juice too, right? So we're going to use some of this brine. Remember, we did the acidity test a few minutes ago. The pH was about 3.5, I believe, 3.6. So that means we're not going to add a lot of vinegar, but we're going to do it to taste just to see how it comes out. So let's add some of this. In fact, we're probably just going to add all of this. All right, let's get this lid on. We've washed first and then sanitized all of this. Let's put it on a trusty blender. I love these blenders here. And we're going to put it on extract on this one right here. It tends to extract really break it all up. So let's get that going. All right, so I've tasted this, blended it up a little bit. Haven't added the vinegar yet. Needs a little bit of vinegar, but it's really mild, right? If you remember those 2 jars, I only had jalapenos in the 1 jar. We were also talking about seasonality and peppers, and sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're not. Well, it seems to be the jalapenos I put in there were not spicy at all. We need to add a little spice. So this is a jar of jalapeno mash that I keep in the refrigerator. We brined it for about, I don't know, a month and a half or so. And what I use it for is I can add some of this jalapeno mash to this Big Tom recipe here to make it a little spicier, right? Now, this was batch 3.0, so I want to make sure exactly what I put in this, right? Don't want to add anything I don't. So that's why it's so important to have this book and have everything written down in it. So you know, because you're not going to I'm not going to remember something I did back at the end of December, right? So I'm going to look in here. Jalapeno pepper mash. That's all it is. Jalapenos. Perfect. Exactly what I needed for this. Now, we're making batch, I think it's 40-41 today, if I have it right. Yeah, 41-42 we're combining. So one of the things I like to do is when I have my book, I'm going to go back to that, and I write when I make the sauce, I'm going to make an entry next to it and see if I added anything extra. I'm going to talk about it here and keep notes on it. That way, maybe a year from now, a year and a half from now, I can come back and look at my notes. You know what? When I'm making this next time, make sure you have this backup. You don't have good enough jalapenos for it. So I about know how spicy it is, so I think this is going to need a little bit more, right? So probably at least 2 of these. Oh my gosh, look at this. I love mashes. Juice just draining off. Maybe just pour the juice in there. All right, maybe a little bit more. All right. You're like, that's a lot of jalapeno mash. I'm like, kind of like my Big Tom, a little spicy, right? Can't have it too, it's not for wimps. So I'll put this back in the fridge here in a minute. So good to have that on the side. I'm gonna add that vinegar that we talked about. Got a cup of vinegar here. I'm gonna add about a 1/4 cup of this. I'm not very good at measuring, so that probably looks good. I like to eye things. Not much of a baker. And then we're gonna add some xanthan gum. Sprinkle it around. It'll clump up, so you gotta be careful. In fact, I'm probably gonna wait until I blend it to see how it works before I put any more in there. All right, let's see. All right, we're done blending here. All right, let's take a look at the sauce now. Looks even better. I'll make sure you all know I'm still doing that. Let's taste this. Now that is way better. It's kind of a little bit chunky, but if you think of a tomatillo salsa, it is kind of a little chunky, right? One of the other things I love to do too with this recipe is I'll take poblanos and char them, right? Take a little bit of the charred skin off, chop them all up, put it in here, you get those brown, black flakes in there. It's really, really good, get that roasted flavor. I didn't do it on this one, but I probably will do it on the next batch. I'm gonna add a little bit more xanthan gum in here, thicken it up a little bit. Then what I'm probably gonna do is take a little bit of this sauce and actually put it in the bullet just to get it really a little bit smoother, right? I'm not gonna do the whole thing, but I wanna get some of that consistency out of it. So let's blend this up first one more time. Then we'll put a little bit in the bullet, combine it back again. All right, now let's see what we got here. See this? What a great looking sauce. Next, we're gonna bottle it. All right, let's get to my favorite part. That's the bottling and the labeling and putting the tops on them. I've got a funnel, a little metal funnel that's been sterilized and cleaned, obviously, right? The bottle's been washed and put a little star scent in. We're gonna make 3 bottles. Obviously, I have more than 3 bottles here, but for the purposes of the video, we're just gonna make 3 right now. So be sure when you're putting your funnel in, a lot of times it'll cut the air off, and if you try to put your sauce in, it doesn't really go as fast, but if you lift up a little bit, boom, there it goes. Always a little bit of headroom at the top. Sometimes it's still fermenting, and I kind of messed that one up. We're gonna have to take some of that out of there. That's okay. After we wash these bottles off. That sauce, man, it smells so good. Remember the pH on this was really low, like in the 3s, right? So we're gonna, it's gonna be shelf stable, so you can just tighten them up, put the lids on it, put them on the counter, put them in the cabinet, whatever, store them. Once you open them though, I do recommend that you put them in the refrigerator. Now we've got our lids. They've been cleaned and sanitized. All right, we're gonna put that on there. Make sure we got a tight fit. Go. Tight fit on this one. There we go. One more. Foil here, gonna put right on top. You know, there's a bunch of different ways to get this foil to adhere to here, to heat it up. You can get some boiling water, stick it in upside down, put it in the boiling water, that will do it. Air dryer will do it. But for me, I take out the big guns. Got a little heat gun here, got it up to full blast, but only doing it halfway. Wait till that heats up. Gets pretty good. Don't burn yourself here. You have to pretty easily. Put that right there. And voila. All right, same thing here. And sometimes it messes up, and you don't want that to happen. So we'll have to redo that one. There we go. 2 done perfectly. And 1 not so perfectly, but that's just fine, right? We can just redo this. I have extra ones of these. Remember what I said earlier? You want to keep a book. I have this book. I have all my recipes in it. This is number 41 and 42 batches that I've combined. Make some notes, added some vinegar. I'm going to put the date that I'm bottling it to. And so this is going to be batch 41, 42. On the labels, which I printed out right here, we're going to put them on here in a minute. I actually like to put the batch number. So 41 and 42. Okay. Gonna take the label off. Make sure it's dry when you're putting these labels on. That way they stick better. There's 1. And there's 2. Hey, how about that? The Big Tom, one of my favorite sauces. Great on so many different things. Really easy to make. Like I said, you can do this recipe without fermentation, but I'll tell you, the flavor profile, the nuances of all the peppers, the cilantro, the tomatillo, the onions, the garlic, they really come out when you do the fermentation. So make sure you do that. Anyway, cheers.